and welcome to Family Read Aloud. My name is Heather, and I'm the Youth Services Librarian at Pennsauken Free Public Library. I hope you got a chance yesterday to go out and do something great for the Earth. Yesterday was the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. So tonight we are going to read two books all about the Earth. The first one is Dr. Seuss's environmental classic, The Lorax. If you have your own copy of this, you are welcome to pause this video, go get it, so you can read along with me. So this was published by Random House and was originally published in 1971. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, and the winds smell slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing, excepting old crows, is the street of the lifted Lorax. And deep in the grickle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today where the Lorax once stood, just as long as it could, before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax, and why was it there, and why was it lifted and taken somewhere? From the far end of town where the grickle grass grows. The old Onceler still lives here. Ask him, he knows. You won't see the Onceler. Don't knock at his door. He stays in his lurkin on top of his store. He lurks in his lurkin, cold under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of muffered moof. And on special dank midnights in August he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks, and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay. On the end of a rope he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail, and the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather's snail. Then he pulls up the pail, makes a most careful count, to see if you've paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you paid him away in his snuff, a secret strange hole in his groovulous grove. Then he grunts, I will call you by whisper-ma-phone, for the secrets I tell you are for your ears alone. Schlup. Down schlups the whisper-ma-phone to your ear, and the old Onceler's whispers are not very clear, since they have to come down through a snurgly hose, and he sounds as if he has smallish bees up his nose. Now I tell you, he says, with his teeth sounding gray, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It started way back, such a long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green, and the ponds were still wet, and the clouds were still clean, and the song of the swami swans rang out in space. One morning I came to this glorious place, and I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright-colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And under the trees I saw brown barbaloots, frisking about in their barbaloot suits, as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the ripulous pond came the comforting sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those truffula trees, all my life I'd been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was much softer than silk, and they had a sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leaping of joy in my heart. I knew just what to do. I unloaded my cart. In no time at all I had built a small shop, little Oncelers, and I chopped down a truffula tree with one chop. And with great skillful skill, and with great speedy speed, I took the soft tuft, and I knitted a thneed. What's a thneed? The instant I finished, I heard a gazump. I looked. I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree I'd chopped down. It was sort of a man. Describe him? That's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish, and oldish, and brownish, and mossy, and he spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. Mister, he said with a sawdusty sneeze, I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues. And I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs. He was very upset as he shouted and puffed, What's that thing you've made out of my truffula tuft? Look, Lorax, I said, there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree. I'm doing no harm. I'm being quite useful. This thing is a thneed. A thneed's a fine something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat, but it has other uses, oh yes, far beyond that. You can use it for carpets, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains, or covers for bicycle seats. The Lorax said, Sir, you are crazy with greed. There's no one on earth who would buy that full thneed. But that very next minute I proved he was wrong, for just at that minute a chap came along, and he happily thought that the Sneed I had knitted was great, and he happily bought it for $3.98. I laughed at the Lorax. You poor stupid guy, you can never tell what some people will buy. I repeat, cried the Lorax, I speak for the trees. I'm busy, I told him. Shut up, if you please, which is not very nice. I crossed the room, and in no time at all I built a radio phone. I put in a quick call. I called on my brothers and uncles and aunts and said, here, listen here, here's a wonderful chance for the whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast, take the road to North Nitch. Turn left at Weehawken, sharp right at South Stitch. And in no time at all, in the factory I built, the whole Onceler family was working full tilt. We were all knitting Sneeds just as busy as bees, to the sound of chopping of truffula trees. Then, oh baby, oh, how my business did grow! Now chopping one tree at a time was too slow. So I invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truffula trees at one smacker. We were making Sneeds 4 times as fast as before, and that Lorax, he didn't show up anymore. But the very next week he knocked on my new office door. He snapped, I'm the Lorax who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots, who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits, and lived happily, eating truffula fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruit to go round, and my poor barbaloots are getting the crummies, because they have gas and no food in their tummies. They love living here, but I can't let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope that they may. Good luck, boys, he cried, and he sent them away. I, the Onceler, felt sad as I watched them all go. But business is business, and business must grow, regardless of crummies and tummies, you know. Although as you're looking, see, there's a lot less trees than there were in the beginning of the story. I meant no harm, I most truly did not, but I had to grow bigger, so bigger I got. I biggered my factory, I biggered my roads, I biggered my wagons, I biggered the loads of the Sneeds I shipped out. I was shipping them forth to the south, to the east, to the west, to the north. I went right on biggering, selling more Sneeds, and I biggered my money, which everyone needs. Then he came back. I was fixing some pipes when that old nuisance Lorax came back with more gripes. I am the Lorax, he coughed and he whiffed. He sneezed and he snuffled, he snarled and sniffed. Onceler, he cried with a crufulous croak, Onceler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor spawny swans, why they can't sing a note. No one can sing who has smog in his throat. Look at how dark the sky is, and there's even less trees. And so, said the Lorax, please pardon my cough. They cannot live here, so I'm sending them off. Where will they go? I don't hopefully know. They may have to fly for a month or a year to escape from the smog you've smogged up around here. What's more, snapped the Lorax, his dander was up, let me say a few words about Gluppity-Glup. Your machinery chugs on day and night without stop, making Gluppity-Glup, also Schloppity-Schlop. And what do you do with this leftover goo? I'll show you, you dirty old Onceler man, you. You're glumping the pond where the humming-fish hummed. No more can they hum, for their gills are all gummed. So I'm sending them off. Oh, the future is dreary. They'll walk on their fins and get woefully weary, in search of some water that isn't so smeary. And then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I yelled at the Lorax, now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap yap and say bad, 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 bad. Well, I have my rights, sir, and I'm telling you I intend to go on doing just what I do. And for your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering, turning more truffula trees into Sneeds, which everyone needs. And at that very moment we heard a loud whack. From outside the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then we heard the tree fall, the very last truffula tree of them all. As you can see, there are none left. They've all been chopped down, and the sky is very dark. No more trees, no more Sneeds, no more work to be done. So in no time my aunts and and uncles every one. All waved me good-bye, they jumped into my cars, and drove away under the smoke-smuggered stars. Now all that was left 'neath the bad-smelling sky was my big empty factory, the Lorax, and I. The Lorax said nothing, just gave me a glance, just gave me a very sad, sad backward glance, as he lifted himself by the seat of his pants, and I'll never forget the grim look on his face when he hoisted himself and took leave of this place, through a hole in the smog, without leaving a trace. All that was left, that the Lorax left here in this mess, was a small pile of rocks with one word, unless. Whatever that meant, well, I just couldn't guess. That was long, long ago, but each day since that day, I sat here and worried away. Through the years, while my buildings have fallen apart, I have worried about it with all of my heart. But now, says the Onceler, now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So catch, calls the Onceler. He lets something fall. It's a truffula seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last of the truffula seeds, and truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffula, treat it with care, give it clean water, and feed it fresh air. Grow a forest, protect it from axes that hack. Then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. So that is the end of that story. And the second book we are going to read is Alan Atkinson's Jack in the Green. And this one is all about the seasons. So this was published by Crown Publishers in 1987. And for any of you Jethro Tull fans, there is a note of gratitude to Mr. Neran Anderson. Jack in the Green. Winter's time of the year was at an end, and Greylock was in the world. Long ago, Greylock had ruled a dark and stony earth alone. Then the seasons came into being, and they brought change, harmony, balance among living things. Their life-giving power overcame Greylock's darkness. And now, only when their power was weakest, between the last days of winter and the soft beginning of springs, could Greylock enter the world he had lost. As winter returned to the great hall of seasons, and Greylock's gray chill touched the earth again, there was a new evil in that awful wind, for Greylock had decided that spring would never come again. From their great hall, spring, summer, fall, and winter traveled through the world in turn. Winter handed the staff of seasons to spring, and Greylock watched as she began to awaken the cold earth. With fading strength, Greylock took Spring in his arms and carried her high above the ground. Spring quickly threw away the staff to save it from him. At world's end, Greylock imprisoned Spring in his tower, just as, far away, a gardener named Jack found the staff. As he touched it, he felt its life and power. Then he recognized it. Many times while working in the garden with his small friend Brub, they had seen each season carry the staff. Jack knew something was wrong. Spring was a long time coming, and he felt a great dread. Brub began to cry. Spring should be carrying the staff. Jack put his arm around Brub to comfort him, not knowing what to do. "You must help," said a gentle voice. Before them stood the spirit of the garden. "You must free Spring," she said. "Between night and day stands Greylock's tower, and that is where Spring is kept. Let the staff guide you, and all will be well. Change and growth will be Greylock's undoing. You carry with you everything you need. Go quickly." As the garden spirit vanished, Jack and Brub hurried on their way, not knowing where they headed, but letting the staff lead them. As they walked, the bare branches of the trees and bushes and the whole cold, hard earth filled Jack's heart with pity. He touched one and then another with the staff, and it brought green life to whatever he could reach. Steadily, the staff guided them on. They reached the heart of a dark forest. Uneasily, Jack and Brub made their way through the tangled maze until they came to a clearing. In the center stood a great tree. Jack touched it with the staff, and it spoke. "I am of the tree men, protectors of this forest," it said. "I know of your journey and of your need." The tree man raised his hand, and the branches near him became a flying beast. "The tree dragon will take you to World's End, but there you must make your own way." Over sleeping meadows and jagged mountains they flew. As far as Jack could see, the land spread out, barren and empty. Soon they were surrounded by mist. An island appeared before them, floating in the clouds. The tree dragon landed, and Jack looked down a long path that went between two great pillars. As Jack and Brub walked down this path, the sun and moon came together. The winds roared, and the clouds spun in dizzying circles. The two were lifted upward toward the darkened center, where a tower loomed. The darkness and the clouds parted. There was a great stillness. No living thing stirred, for nothing grew in Greylock's domain. Brub shivered in the bleakness. From the tower emerged a figure. "I am Greylock," he said. "Spring is mine. You have no power here." "I have the Staff of Seasons," Jack cried and held it up. Greylock laughed. "It is useless here. There is nothing that can grow. Be gone." The ground roared and split, and Jack and Brub fell. Jack caught hold of the edge and tried to reach Brub as the ground roared once more. Brub and the staff fell together. Jack pulled himself to solid earth, and suddenly there was a burst of light. Twisting its way out of the abyss came a flowering vine, and wrapped tightly at the top was the Staff of the Seasons. Greylock faded in the growing brilliance. A small hand reached out and took hold of the staff. In an instant, standing before Jack was Spring, and the journey back had already begun. Green sprang to life all around them, while Jack could only think with heavy sadness of his friend Brub. "Brub is not lost to you," said Spring. She handed Jack the vine from the staff, and saw that she was right. The gentle flowers were Brub. Jack took the vine to plant near him, and walked with Spring as far as his garden. "Goodbye, Jack in the Green," called Spring, and then she was gone. Jack tenderly planted the morning glory vine, and then set to work. He was a gardener, and had much work to do, all his spring gardening work, for Spring would soon return to the Hall of Seasons, and hand the staff to Golden Summer. And that is the end of the book. So thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed reading some books about the environment, and I hope you join me next week for our next family read aloud. Good night.